Psalm chapter 43 verse 5 asks the question, "Why art thou cast down, O my soul, and why art thou disquieted within me?" Life in a minor key, where we meet ordinary people who use their adversities to learn more about themselves, their relationship with God, and the world around them. Today we have with us Pastor Brian Watson and Minister Watson, authors of Persevering Under Pressure, Patiently Pursuing Justice. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me today. So I'd like to start out with you all just telling a little bit about yourselves.
Okay. My name is Brian Watson. I'm born to be here in Washington, D.C. I met my wife driving a taxi cab. We've been married over 30 some odd years. A father, grandfather, and great-grandfather. Served in several churches here in Washington, D.C. as a youth minister and doing evangelism, prison ministry, feeding the homeless and all. And I work several different jobs here in the city. One working for Mark Jack Myers Candy and Tobacco Company, working for a gentleman who I happened to see the other day named Mr. Kuel Ewing at several gas stations. Worked as a taxi cab driver, and my most prior to working as a parking lot attendant in the Maine State Department, I worked for the Water and Sewer Authority. Prior to that was the Department of Public Works.
And I'm a Washingtonian from DC. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about myself. I like to talk, I like to travel, I like to do a lot of things. But one thing I like to do is I have the gifts of help. I love helping. I love helping others, sharing with others. And I'm a paraprofessional in Prince George's County school system. And I enjoy children, working with children.
Amen.
Thank you. So tell me who or what inspired you to write your book?
Well, one day my husband, Pastor Watson, came home and he talked about writing a book. So I said, okay. But then one of our friends, Minister
Gillespie.
She talked about that her book. She preached about it in her sermon when she preached at Ridge Park Baptist Church. So from there, my husband took from there. We worked on it from there, and we built on it.
Mm-hmm. If I could add to that, one of the things too that inspired us to want to write the book is from the gross injustice that we had suffered, trying to deal with major networks and trying to work our way through the courts, trying to speak with people who worked at Washington Post and trying to get our story out there. And it was very hard for us to do. And so, as she said again, Lord laid on our heart, and someone else said, share with me that maybe you should write your own story. So that's how we moved towards that.
That's very courageous. So about how long did it take you to complete the book from start to finish?
I want to say that we've been meeting probably with her at least close to 2 years.
Yeah.
Of 2 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say was the most difficult part of the whole writing process?
The difficult part of it was recalling a lot of the painful events that we had been through, and trying to bring back the memories of those different things that had happened, because this took place in January of 2002, and we was fighting for justice from January 2002 all the way up into 2019, our last time in the court system.
So setting aside all the personal issues and all, what advice would you give someone else trying to write a book about what happened in their lives?
Well, I would, my advice would be to somebody else who goes through whatever adversity that they go through or injustice that they face or whatever it may be, if that's what they feel led to do, don't stop until you reach your goal. Find someone like, my wife and I, we was very fortunate to find someone to help us to do that who had experience in writing a book, because most times people think that, and it can be very costly and everything of that nature, but you can find people who it's not about the money, it's about trying to help you, it's about trying to help you to tell your story, it's about trying to help to keep you sane, to help you to get some closure in your matter. So there are people who are out here that will help you. And it's not about money, because most times when we're trying to achieve a goal or whatever it is to get justice or to get closure, to get our story out there, most times when you talk to people, it's money, it's money, it's money. But through this process, man, I've learned that it's not everybody that's looking for money. It's like yourself, it's others who don't mind trying to help us to get our story out there so nobody else would have to suffer what we suffer, or nobody else will allow this to push them over the edge.
Yes. Oh, thank you for sharing that. In the book, you contrasted your personal life experiences with those of several biblical characters who also suffered injustice, such as Joseph, Abraham, and Job. So you stated when you worked on this that it brought up a lot of painful memories that maybe you had tried to forget. So did it actually reopen any of those wounds? Did you find yourself having to heal again?
Yes, I find that I find that quite a bit in writing this story. And now that it's back up, I find it quite a bit, but dealing with it's a little different than when it first happened, because I talk about it quite a bit, but it's still painful to us to be let down knowingly by a system that should protect us. And then when young men or young women of our stature make very minimal mistakes, they know how to lock us up. They know how to put us on probation, know how to do all kinds of things. But when we are right, we're right on the matter, based on the merits and the facts of our matter. You find those who do things to keep you from getting your matter litigated in the proper way, and that's very painful. So the painful part of it was reliving that and telling that, and but the easy part of it is that when you look at, as you spoke about, the different biblical characters like Abraham and Joseph, and you think about how the Lord still gave them victory. So that gives you a lot of pleasure as a believer, knowing that even in the end, you may not get it from the court system and all that, but because you're a believer, God will still make all things work together for you, and you'll work it out if you just trust it and put it in his hands. Recompense to no man evil for evil, and let the Lord be the main judge of the situation. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So it sounds like it didn't really affect your faith in God. It sounds like you were still strong.
Yes, and that's because of people like yourself and your father and the different churches that we was connected to, the different believers who have taken time to encourage Renee and I and pray with Renee and I, and we cannot take this alone and say it was just based on us. It was based on a lot of people who believed God for us and kept speaking to us. A lot of the seniors, our mentor, the late Clayton P. Giles and Miss Borley and Mother Hawkins and Aunt May and even Pastor James, the church where we now serve at, Pastor Willer and his wife, and all those coming down the court and trying to encourage us, and police officers and lawyers telling us the Lord's going to work it out and trying to help us not to allow this thing to become a mental bomb in our mind. And so we're very thankful to the Lord and to all of our fellow brothers and sisters in Christ who have encouraged us and try to give us wisdom on persevering under pressure. So our faith has grown in the Lord, but it was because of other people's testimonies, other people's stories that have helped to share with us and have told us that the Lord will work it out. One person, she didn't live to see it, but she told me about one lawyer who volunteered time to help us. He wasn't a labor lawyer. She used to say that lawyer is not sticking with you just to be sticking with you. He sees something.
So if you could go back before that first incident where you first realized that you were being misrepresented, what advice would you give yourself?
Well, I'll tell you, I think the advice would be if once I was armed with the information that I was being misrepresented, try fastly and quickly to network and get somebody up there who could represent me in a better way and who knows and won't quit at nothing.
So what is the main thing you want people to take away from reading your story? What is the big takeaway lesson here?
They can learn how to stand while going through that. Going through is not going to be easy. So you got to hold on and hold on to God's unchanging hands. Because as you go there, you have people that change their hands on you, but just continue to hold on to his hand.
Amen. And to add to that, I would want people to know, whatever you go through, whether it be discrimination on your job, whether it be buying a product in that they sold your product, but the product didn't live up to be what they had said the product was. If it's a bad relationship, then I would want to take from that and tell everybody to take from anything you go through. Always try to find a word in the Bible that will relate to your story so they will not push you over the top, that you won't do something that you regret. And I think one would be the best, I think, is Romans 12 and 17, recompense to no man evil for evil. I will repay, saith the Lord. And still continue to try to live peacefully with all men as much as possible that lie in you. Don't resort to hate. Don't resort to resentment, even though it's very painful sometimes. I'm trying to do things in a godly way, but at the end, everybody wins.
And also, add to that, don't let it make you bitter.
Amen.
Don't let it make you bitter as you go through this.
And that's kind of challenging.
Where do you go from here? What are your next steps? Is this the end of your pursuit, or?
No, it's not the end of our pursuit. What I'm hoping and praying that we can find others like yourself, Ms. Angela, who has a passion to reach people, have a passion to make a difference, that they can come and show Renee and I how to get our book into their hands, and maybe even we can become, I don't know if she wants to do that, but I wouldn't mind even like going up on jobs and going to different places and companies, sharing with them and trying to get a handbook on this with a few little steps that we give people to what to do when you fall into very adverse situations. I wouldn't mind trying to counsel people or talk to people like that in jobs, people, not that they less, but what we consider from the low echelon would be able to have access to justice, because there's a lot of keys to turn to get to justice. There's a lot of keys to turn to being able to be made whole, or at least being able to have some kind of equality out of it. Not Angela don't have no access because Angela don't have money for a lawyer. We know that they wrong Angela, but they have money and stuff like that. It wouldn't be that way. It would be that our judicial system, as well as the three branches of the government, will not continue to fail poor people and then turn around and say, hey, when they get locked up and they got plenty in prison and dealing with mental issues, drug issues and all that. And a lot of it is a byproduct of them being oppressed. And most time oppressed people do desperate things. When you're desperate people do desperate things. And as you asked earlier, the grace of God and my wife and I not doing desperate things because we had a lot of people who have come to encourage us along the way. There's times that we really felt low in this. There's times we felt like quitting. There's times that we felt like running away and just hiding. But each and every time we got to that point, the Lord would send somebody there to encourage us. And we would get back in and say, hey, the race is not given to the swift, nor to the strong, but to he or she that endure to the end. And therefore, that's why I continue to try to arm myself with the tools and arm others with the tools that they need to be able to deal with adverse situations.
Okay. So do you think you all might write another book?
Well, we talked about that.
Yes.
We talked about doing another book together. We won't move fastly into that. As we stated earlier, there's a few other things we'd like to do before we get there, maybe even with this particular book before we write a book.
This book is a timely topic in today's world. No matter what type of injustice you are currently facing, the Watsons want to remind you that it is not too big for the Lord. Follow the Watsons and be encouraged while you patiently pursue justice, learning strategies you can implement to win with the Word. You are an overcomer and you will persevere. You will find Persevering Under Pressure, Patiently Pursuing Justice, and more original works by African American authors on topics such as inspiration and self-help, and some fun children's books by visiting our online store, www.revanna992.com. And for more original programming, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you would like to share your story, please email lightinaminor key992@gmail.com. Thank you.